Hey everybody, this is Nick from Mecha Warehouse here, and I want to do a little bit of a different video today. I saw a great review of our shop, Mecha Warehouse, on a YouTube channel maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, from a YouTube channel called Droobz Vids. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And today what I want to talk about is addressing the one thing that was the criticism, and I don't think it's a bad criticism. That criticism was that our shipping costs are high. I don't necessarily agree, but it really depends on how well you optimize things. If you go to our website, there are 4 main tiers if you're in the continental US. We have a $5, $9, $11, and $13 tiers on our website. And that's for the total order, not per item in that order. So if you order, for example, some really small items, like say a Gundam marker, a pot of paint, things like that, that usually falls into that $5 category. Water slide decals, things like that. When we get to a larger item, we start getting to those 3 other tiers. Those 3 higher tiers are based basically off of 3 package sizes. Something that a lot of people might not be aware of in Gunpla is the fact that Gunpla is really, any sort of model kit for that matter, we hit volumetric weight before we hit the actual weight of the item in terms of how the shipping is billed. So UPS, FedEx, all these companies, they will charge you based on how large an item is if the item is larger than the typical item of that particular weight is. So smaller boxes, weight matters quite a bit. Once we get past a certain point, it's almost impossible to hit the actual weight limit of what that shipping tier is in terms of what the shipper charges. That's part of how we base our shipping pricing structure to keep things relatively simple. So we've got 3 tiers of boxes that we use. We've got the 12 by 8 by 3, the small box that small kits will usually come in, 14, 10, 6, and so this is what more medium-sized kits will come in, or multiple smaller kits. And then finally we have the 16, 14, 6, and up. We've got other boxes above this size, but this is kind of the workhorse. We ship probably more boxes in this size than any other. And that corresponds roughly with 3 main kit sizes. So another fun fact about Gunpla is that for the most part things fit into kind of standard size categories. There are exceptions, and those exceptions are the most annoying thing in the world for me because they create the little headaches in the corners. But small kits like a normal HG kit, RX-782 Revive here for an example, this fits into that 12-8-3 kind of category. So the long side here, a little bit longer than, just barely under 12 inches. It's about 7.5 inches wide. And if I turn this up sideways, it's a little over 2 inches tall. High grade kits will fall within that range. Some will be thicker, of course, and there's obviously high grade kits that are much larger for things like the Kshatriya, etc. But the typical high grade kit fits inside that box pretty well. The middle range, we've got a lot of master grade kits fall into this size. We've kind of internally started calling these fats. My wife kind of nicknamed them that. It's like a high grade kit that's fatter. It's a much larger box, and this usually ships in that middle tier, right? That's just over 12 inches, so that's why we have 14 inches long. It's just barely 8. I think that middle sized box is about 10 inches wide, and we'll turn this up on its side, and it's about 4.5, so it gives us plenty of room. And then finally we've got what we end up referring to internally, my wife dubbed these flats. They're the bigger, flatter kits. This is a lot of master grades come in this size as well. There are high grades that come like this. There are high grades that come like that previous category. And this box, just for relative example here, is about 15.5 by 12.5, a little under, and about 3.25 or so. So it gives you some kind of idea. So what we ship and what we charge for shipping ultimately comes down to which of those boxes we can fit it in. And a lot of this is kind of guesstimation on the part of the website, how the website determines which size box to use. So it's possible to kind of not fit perfectly in there, but this will hopefully help people figure out how to get the most out of their shipping. So if we go through some examples here, we got the small box again. We've got a smaller kit. You can see it fits in there perfectly. So that one there fits in the $9 category. Would fit perfectly inside that box, and we're fine. If we take for another example though, we've got a couple other high grades here. This is the high grade Marseille. Basically the same dimensions. It's closer to 3 tall. It's just barely over 12, and it's still under 8. So I believe this one won't actually fit in this box. So this is where things get interesting. Occasionally, the numbers I've got in the website, yeah, it's not going to fit in there, and I'm not going to jam it in there. So this one here, even though it's only a slightly larger box, is going to ship as an $11, ideally. I could have the website wrong, and this is where you'll notice these numbers might change. If you order the same kit that barely fit into a smaller one, eventually I'll catch on and I'll adjust that. But that's where we get down to that, because the larger box costs me a little bit more on my end to ship. So here, that same Marseille, so this one will fit in there fine. We could fit the high grade RX-78 on there fine too. So those two kits together should nominally ship for 11. If I went to an even larger high grade kit, this is the Rezel. I never know how to pronounce anything. This one here is even thicker. This one is, I believe, about just under 4 tall. Otherwise, it's basically in the same ballpark as that Marseille. So this one here, nominally, fit in there, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell. These ones actually together stick out above, and so I couldn't close this box without crushing the kits. So it gives you kind of an idea. These two together are going to get bumped. These two together get bumped up to the next tier. So if we take that larger box, this is that 16 by 14 by 6. These ones would fit in there fine. And so the interesting fact, at least if you're in continental US, our shipping stops at 13. So you can buy anything after that $13. Once you hit $13 in shipping, it's basically won't cost you any more. So if you ordered 7 perfect grade kits, it's only going to cost you 13 to ship it. I probably shouldn't say that, because someone's going to go do that now, and it's going to cost me a fortune to ship all those kits together. But that's how that works. Sometimes I'll split things, but at that point, it's on me to figure out how to ship it at the most economical cost to make things make sense. This box here is basically sized around these flats, right? Like this Death Scythe Hell here. Good kit, by the way. I really enjoyed that one. And you can see this one will fit in there fine. No problem. Plenty of space. I can even throw a couple high grades on top of here. That Marseille just barely fits. That's fine. I can fit the RX-78 in there. Life is good. And we've got taller boxes. We got different box options. Important thing to note, that one of the more recent exceptions, things that are flammable and can't be shipped by air, such as certain paints, Tamiya paint, Mr. Color, splash paint, Tamiya thin cement, some epoxy putties, anything that could be considered hazardous that can't travel by air has to get shipped by ground, basically. So that automatically bumps up to that $9 tier at minimum, and it shouldn't cost you any more. Yeah, shouldn't cost you any more otherwise, unless you start adding bigger items or add up enough stuff. Things get a little bit tricky. There isn't really a good system for accurately calculating how much you need in terms of shipping rate based on volume. There probably is, but we don't have any sort of software in the background that actually adds up dimensions and tries to tell you what size box you'll need. That would be pretty neat. Maybe I'll do that someday when I'm bored. But in the meantime, it's a guesstimate based on a pretty simple algorithm. It works well enough the majority of the time, but that's basically how we get our shipping rates. So if you want to save money, multiple kits is always the way to go in terms of saving on that shipping. I know that the one big pain point with ordering things online is usually the cost of shipping. So we do what we can to keep that down. If you buy a bunch of master grade kits, you buy stuff less frequently but in larger orders, you're going to save some money. It'll cost me a little bit more, but that's okay. I'm more than happy to deal with that, especially because you placed a larger order and everything works out for everybody. So if you want to save that little bit extra, that's a good way to. It's also worth noting that international shipment, not international, we don't ship international, not yet, maybe someday, outside the continental US, so Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, etc. Any of those places, one, we can't ship those flammable items because we can't ship surface. I think that there in the future might be a way to ship those items to at least Alaska and Hawaii, but we need a special like hazmat account or something with our shipping partners, and we don't have that, and it seems like a lot more work than I can handle at this scale, so unfortunately we can't really support that. All those tiers basically stay the same, but they get a little bit more expensive. So for small items, it only goes up by like $1, but for larger items, like if you were to order a couple perfect grades and try to ship them to Alaska, it's going to cost you $35. We're constantly playing with those. We don't fulfill a ton of orders to those places. So if you happen to be one of those few people from Alaska or Hawaii that is a customer of the shop, and you either place an order or you're about to place an order and your shipping looks like it's ridiculous compared to what you think it should be based on your experience, you can always feel free to reach out. As I get more data, I'm adjusting it. I typically, if I have an order come in and I know I way overcharged someone for shipping, I'll either provide a gift card to make up for it or refund the difference depending on the kind of range and how much over it was. I always expect there to be a couple dollar swing either way on a lot of our shipping because we do it flat rate. But when you order something and get overcharged by $20 on shipping, we're going to definitely take care of that because that's just not right. At any rate, hopefully this provided some good insight into how we do shipping, at least in terms of what our shipping rates are, and helps you figure out how to optimize your order to save on shipping. I hope you can save some money. Money's tight for some of us these days, especially with everything going on in the world, and I want you to get the most plastic you can for your money. So thank you for watching. Please say something in the comments if this was helpful in any way, or if there's any other things that you might find helpful in the future. Please like and subscribe, and have a great one. See you next time.